It's 1:30. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We've got a quorum. First item, second item on the agenda is to receive the minutes. Everybody look at those.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to receive the minutes for the October 5th, 2023 meeting.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. My screen says waiting. Anybody else get a voting panel? Okay.
Working.
Okay. It's not just me this time.
Oh, what's that? It went down. Went down.
Okay, got it. All right, we're good, thank you. Next item, continuance request withdrawals. Cindy?
We have item number 6, case number 15195 is just deferred till December 7th.
Okay. Anybody here on that particular item? Number 6, case 15195. Okay, we have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the continuance request as read.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. All right, that one's deferred. I don't have anything else. Is there anyone here on an item that wants to request a continuance? Okay, none from the public. No consent dockets. Cindy, would you call the first one, please?
We have item number 1, case number 15469, a request of Sergio Ramirez of MYM Properties for a variance to the platted building line in the C3 Community Commercial District located at 3725 South Portland Avenue.
Okay. Sergio, come on up to the podium, please. Okay, give us your name, address, and
Sergio Ramirez, 3725 South Portland Avenue.
okay, tell us a little bit about your application.
I barely hear you, sorry.
Tell us a little bit about your application.
Okay, this is an old house. We just rebuilt it, but now the city, since I pull a permit, they say I'm inside the city limits, but 2 feet. But this house been built in 1951.
Any questions or comments from the board? And I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Did you want to address this application? Oh, the lights are bright, you're right. Okay.
Just a question, you did a remodel on this building, basically?
If you look in the first plan, there's the existing patio because it's the staircase going to the basement. So I guess it was a construction. We just remodel, but we're still asking for a kind of building permit. But it was existing foundation and patio
Yeah,
and everything.
and under
because
that patio, or under that patio was the basement, so you
it's the
just,
access to the basement.
Yeah, so
I
you
mean,
just
it's
covered
already
all that
been,
up.
it's already been done since they built the house,
yeah, in 1951.
like the 51.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody want to speak on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion then.
I would like to move that we approve case number 15469 for a variance on the grounds that it meets the statutory requirements for a relief.
Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Item number 2, case number 15471 is an application of a special exception of James and Jessica Carson to allow home sharing at 931 Northwest 7th Street, item number 101.
James, Jessica?
Good afternoon. Jessica Carson, James Carson. The property is located at 931 Northwest 7th Street, Unit 101.
Tell us a little bit about your application in the condo.
We are seeking an special exception to permit home. It was purchased as an investment.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board?
Just some questions. You have one room being offered, but you have a maximum number of guests of 4.
We were considering putting in an air mattress
Okay.
as an option.
And then another question that I had was the parking. Is there covered parking?
There is one space in a garage underneath the building, but it's by like access, like a garage door opener. So there is dedicated guest parking that is not street parking. But in the interest of not trying to pass around a single garage door opener, we were just going to reserve that space for our use.
So in the condominium community, you can reserve a spot of the outdoor parking? Or,
It's designated guest parking for the building.
right, it looked like there wasn't very many.
There's 4, but there's 3 buildings, each has 4, and there's current plans to expand that parking to have, I think they're have 6 in that area.
Okay. So in part of the application then for me, I would like to put a maximum number of cars on this.
Okay,
And it'd really be hard for me to put more than 1 car.
I think that's acceptable considering the size of the unit.
And being that, if we do put that restriction of 1 car, my concern is.
Microphone.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I don't have my mic. My concern would be whether or not you can actually accommodate 4 in a one room that you're offering site. So is that 1 bedroom? Can you give us a visualization of how that would look like?
Technically it's an efficiency, but there is a separation between the living space and the bedroom space. So we would make an air mattress available to put in the living space. It's one of those things where we'd like to be able to offer that. If we can't, if it's not conducive to the space or to the application, then we're more than happy to change that number and pull it back to 2.
Well, and if it's an efficiency, the 4 guests that you're talking about, are you saying 4 adults or 2 adults and 2 children? Because efficiencies are very small, and for 4 adults in a space that size, that seems cramped.
I'd say 2 and let him put 4 in if they want to.
It could be. I think it would be, up to somebody booking the unit, whether they would find it to be sufficient space for them. We would obviously be forthcoming about the space available and the sleeping arrangement available.
Okay, thank you very much.
So For me, just again, on the application, I think for us to approve the permit, or for me to approve the permit, I would need 2 maximum on the occupancy, 1 car. We would only do 1 year
Okay.
term, or I would do a 1-year term, and then the quiet hours as listed. And if you're in agreement with that, then
Yes, I think I'm in agreement. Absolutely
I think we
fine.
can get behind that.
Okay.
I appreciate you asking for in perpetuity, but we usually do a year on your first year.
On how long you can have the exemption for.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was the attorney and me poking at the. My apologies.
And just some behind that, this is the first time this property has been put up with that, and it just allows the neighbors and us
Yes.
for you to come back in a year.
Absolutely.
And then if there are no problems, we usually will give you a longer term
Okay.
on the second one.
Okay, I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15471 as it meets the statutory requirement for a special exception, subject to changes to the application for a maximum of 2 occupants, a maximum of 1 car, and a 1-year exemption.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you so much.
Item number 3, case number 15472, an application of Andrew Dewhurst on behalf of TFP Holds LLC for home sharing located at 4212 Chicago Street.
Andrew, come on up.
I am not Andrew, but I am a representative for him.
Okay.
My name is Bobby Lester. I live at 3101 Northwest 150th Street.
Okay. Tell us about Andrew's application.
Yes, so he is an investor who, and this home is in rental property for him, and he is trying to make it a short-term rental property.
Does he live here in Oklahoma?
No, he does not. He lives in California.
And how many other properties does he own here in Oklahoma
He owns,
that are currently being used as Airbnb investments?
so this is going to be his first one, and it's
Okay.
not going to be used for Airbnb. It's going to be used for, to house corporate and business employees and traveling nurses. He is not going to be doing Airbnb for this home. But he has 4 other homes with me here in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's still short-term?
This will be the first short-term rental that we will be getting into, yes.
And it's a 3-bedroom home?
Yes, it is a 3-bed, 2-bath home.
Okay. And another thing I'd like to see added to the application would be quiet hours.
Quiet hours, okay?
Yeah, we tend to put quiet hours to there, so 10 PM to 7 AM.
Okay.
Um,
That does-
And first time this property is going to be put up as short-term lease, so for me, I'd need a 1-year
Okay.
exemption. And then the other would be a maximum number of cars, and I think you could put 3 cars within the driveway.
So the driveway, we can fit 4 cars, plus there's parking in the street.
Yeah. So I still would like a maximum, if you can put 4 cars in the driveway, we can put 4 cars on it.
Okay.
And for the record, I just want to let you know, your method of advertisement does state that it was going to be used as Airbnb.
Okay,
So that's the only reason I asked you about that.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the board? We'll speak on this one. Okay, have a seat for just a second.
Yes.
and Give us your name and address.
My name is David Campbell, and I live at 2544 Northwest 55th Place, not near this house. My question is to this lady here, she said this is advertised already as an Airbnb. And he's saying, no, we're not going to do that. Is there any restriction with the city about having an Airbnb in a residential neighborhood? This is a business being run out of a neighborhood, pure business out of a residential neighborhood.
So
And that's a zoning problem, I would think.
before we move forward, I just would like to make a correction to the records. I did not say he was going to advertise as an Airbnb. I said according to his application, the method of advertisement is listed for us.
But he's already declared that that's what he wanted in his application.
Well, but he did say that, but he also stated when he said, no, it's not going to be. So I just want the record to be clear that I did not state he said or
Okay,
anything.
that helps me there, but is
Okay,
there
thank you,
any
sir.
regulation about the city about zoning of a business in a pure residential neighborhood? That was my real question.
This is called home sharing.
That's still a
Short-term-
business.
Now, describe it how you want. It is specifically permitted in an R1 if you get the board to approve a special exception. And that's the process we're going through today.
Well, that's what I'm here to learn. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Does anybody else want to address the board on this application? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 15472 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exception, subject to the self-imposed rules with the addition of quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., a one-year exemption, and a maximum of 4 cars.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Okay. All right, cast your votes. Okay, you're approved.
Item number 4, case number 15473 is an application of special exception of Gallagher Services LLC to provide home sharing located at 1312 Northeast 11th Street.
And on this one, before you start, I've got to recuse myself. So Kitty's in charge.
Okay. I'm not in charge, I'm just handling the pay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, please state your name.
Jay Gallagly.
Okay, and just tell us a little bit about your case, please.
So we're asking for a home sharing license for a special exception for 1312 Northeast 11th Street.
Okay. Are there any questions, the board?
Kitty, first, is there anyone here to speak on this one? No.
No, there are none.
Okay, so it's a 3-bedroom home,
Correct.
and you're asking for 6 maximum number of guests. You do have quiet hours listed from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. I'd like to add a 1-year exemption to the application, and then for me, I think 3 cars, a 3-car maximum, and keep them off the street.
Yeah, that's what the driveway would permit. That would be doable.
If you're in agreement with all that.
Oh, yes. Marcus, do you have anything? So I would like to entertain a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15473 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exception subject to the self-imposed rules with the addition of a 1-year exemption term and a 3-car maximum.
Second.
Okay, sir, it's been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Item number 5 is case number 15470, an application for special exception of Tien Bui and Tan Vinh Phu and Tiffany Phu to allow home sharing located at 2601 Northwest 58th Place.
Is the applicant here?
Are they not here? That's interesting.
Yes.
There's a guy with his hand up.
My name's Sam Heinen, 2605 Northwest 58th Place. I did see the owners here earlier, but they appear to have departed, so I don't know any more than that.
I've got several people signed up and a lot of protest letters, and I assume none of you are here to support this. Is there any, did you see? Okay. Typically, when an applicant doesn't show up, we continue it, renotice them.
The renotice,
We don't renotice the mail, but we let them know.
the applicant.
Yeah.
And rather than you guys have to leave and come back, if you feel free to speak if you want to. 'Cause we will.
Oh, you signed up to speak. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take you first since you're here and you signed up.
Hello, again, my name is Sam Heinen, 2605 Northwest 58th Place. I live directly west of the property that we are discussing. I'm here today to express my opposition towards granting a special exception in this case. So in preparation for today, I watched a few Board of Adjustment hearings from earlier this year just to learn more about this process, and I had a few general observations. Number one was that the applicants who came before this board did so prior to using their homes as a short-term rental. The neighbors who were opposed to the short-term rentals were often opposed based on their experiences with a different rental property in their neighborhood or because of secondhand stories about living next to Airbnbs. I found that the board usually granted first-time applicants with a 1-year special exception, essentially a trial run for the applicant and the neighborhood. My goal is to explain to the board why this application is different than most of the others that come before you. To start with, we have already had our trial run. That's because this property has been used as an Airbnb for short-term rentals for the past 3 to 4 months. In fact, there were short-term rental guests staying at the home today. So I think we should just think about that. You know, the owners are here seeking approval, or they were here seeking approval for a special exception from this board to operate a short-term rental. Meanwhile, they had short-term rental guests staying at their home today. And to me, that would be like if a 16-year-old drove on their own to the DMV to take their driving test. Would they get a license? No. To be clear, the property now has 26 reviews on Airbnb, all from short-term rental guests since July. Based on my observations, no guests have stayed at this property beyond 1 week. All short-term rentals, mostly 1 or 2 days. And I want to make note that unlike the proactive applicants that I have observed in your previous board hearings, it was our neighborhood that had to jumpstart this application process because the owners did not. The neighborhood had to contact the city's action line because even we knew that they needed a special exception permit and did not have one. As a result, the city later left a notice on their front door. Weeks later, I asked one of the owners if he had a city permit for his Airbnb, and he was dishonest and told me that he did. I later learned that he applied for a special exception permit the day after our conversation. Until last week, on their Airbnb profile, they also referenced a second Oklahoma City property that is also available for short-term rentals. That property is located at 3605 Treadwell Drive. It's my understanding that this property does not have a special exception either, despite already hosting short-term rental guests. This home also had to be reported to the action line. I also want to make it clear that I am not speculating about what it would be like for the 58th Place property to be used as a short-term rental. I've documented my experiences from the past 3 to 4 months. In my letter to the board, I outlined several examples of guests outside using the pool and playing music later than 2 a.m. When I asked one particular group of guests to be quiet at 2 a.m., they waited for me to go back inside my house and then threw a Gatorade bottle on my roof, which I found in my front yard the following morning. Other neighbors later told us that those same guests were ringing and running doorbells that same night, and they were one-night stay guests, so they just got to leave the next morning without any consequences. To me, there is an important distinction between occasional noise complaints and guests trespassing and throwing an object at a neighboring home, as was the case here. After the 2 a.m. bottle incident, the next time I saw one of the owners, I told him what had happened. We exchanged contact information to communicate about future guest issues, and he assured me that they wanted to respect their neighbors. 2 weeks later, there were guests outside at 4 a.m. I texted the owners at 4 a.m. and did not receive a response. 2 weeks after that, there were guests playing music, talking, and splashing in the pool at 2 a.m. I asked the guests to be quiet, but the noise continued. I texted the owners a video at 2 a.m. to alert them. I also sent them language from their own listing, which claimed that noise violations would result in stay cancellations. The owners responded 7 hours later. They said that they were asleep when I texted them. Well, yes, that's the point. It was 2 a.m. I should have been asleep too. They acknowledged viewing my video, but said that the noise didn't trigger their sound monitoring equipment, so they would not be canceling the second night of the guest stay. In my letter to the board, I included additional details, photos, and other general concerns. I hope that the letter and attachments have been reviewed and are being considered. I think that when you take in the whole picture and see that the owners are here before the board reluctantly, well, they were here before the board reluctantly, they've already hosted guests for 3 to 4 months, and we've already had issues with multiple guests. This property is just not deserving of a special exception. Their excuse is that they didn't know better. Well, ignorance of a rule or a law is not a defense. 30 minutes of Google research would have told them the steps they needed to take to operate a short-term rental in Oklahoma City. And when they learned that they needed a special exception, did they stop doing short-term rentals until they were granted an exception? No, they continued to use their short-term rentals, even into this week. When they learned that they needed a special exception, was a simultaneous application completed for the Treadwell Drive property? No. If the board is still considering a special exception, I believe that a 3-night minimum guest stay should be one of the conditions. All of the problem guests have been 1 or 2 night stays who rent the property to throw pool parties. The maximum guest limit should be 6. This home was sold as a 3-bedroom home earlier this year. The applicants are advertising the home as a 4-bedroom home that can host 10 people. It's my understanding that they placed 2 queen beds in the home's former dining room, and unless they added a built-in closet to that room, the home would still legally be a 3-bedroom home, which would give a maximum capacity of 6 people. And with a maximum capacity of 6 guests, I think that a 2-vehicle parking limit is reasonable with no street parking allowed. But really, how can the board expect these applicants to follow any rules that you may set for them today if they are not following the rules coming into today? That's why I think this is one of those unique cases where the special exception should be totally denied. Thank you.
Anything from the board for?
I do appreciate your letter, read all of the letters, and maybe we can have some conversation, and maybe not everyone needs to speak, but we do look at every application individually. Our purview binds us to what we have to follow according to the special exception. That being said, you've heard us, we can negotiate the application. Some of the stuff you said, minimum night stay is something we didn't talk about. I don't know if we can actually do anything about the minimum night stay on the short-term lease. We can dictate the maximum number of occupants, the cars, quiet hours, And I want to say this too, by granting them the exception, it gives them legal status that they have to follow. Right now, they can pretty much do anything they want. You continue to call Action Center. There's no process. I don't know of the process, I guess, on what the cities can do. Keep telling them to get a special exception. By granting the application and giving them the special exemption, if they fail to meet the standard, then there's teeth.
But, I mean, if we just document what they do wrong over the course of the next year, then we come back in a year, and then where does that leave us then in a year
At
from
least
now?
gives us something to go back. I know the wheels are obviously probably not turning fast enough for what you would like, but I don't know of another way. You know,
In one of your previous meetings, I saw that you referenced that you all had denied a application because one of the guests came to a neighboring home thinking that it was their Airbnb they were supposed to stay at. I feel like this is a similar instance where, you know, you're having an object thrown at a house and ring and running other neighbors. Just seems like it kind of goes to that next step of not even warranting any type of.
Yeah.
But I understand your point.
yeah, I agree in the possibility. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of where we're coming from on just in general, especially since they're not here today.
I'll stay. I mean, I want to reiterate, we are limited as far as what we can review, and I've been vocal about it previously and still feel the same way that the management of a short-term rental is very important. And if it's not being managed well, for me, it becomes really easy to deny an application. I don't know, I was gonna ask staff, has there been any communication with the applicant? Was there an emergency or something that happened? Does anybody know why they vanished?
No, they didn't advise us.
So, I'm interested in hearing how you guys feel about it. I would like for the applicant to be here simply to respond to some of the accusations that have been shared with us. Personally, those are big deals. I think that falls right in the category of being poorly managed, and I would not want a short-term rental being operated that way next to me. That being said, the applicant isn't here to speak for themselves, but with no communication with staff, it's also easy for me to say, well, it wasn't important for them to represent themselves. So I am, as it currently stands, I'm inclined to believe the information that I heard. And if that's the case, then I'm not inclined to support the application. However, I understand if you all would like to hear from the applicant and would like to continue this, to give the applicant a chance to speak. So those are my two positions on it.
All right, wait a minute. I'm going to take these in order, sort of. Paula Grace. Okay, you're next.
Hi, I'm Paula Grace. My husband and Ron Grace and I, we live at 2616 Northwest 58th Place. I don't think I can add very much to Sam's extremely comprehensive report. He's directly next door, and I think he's observed as much as any of us have. But what I could add is that the blocks of 2500 and 2600 Northwest 58th contain young families, children. 2500 intersects with Villa, which is at the intersection of Belle Isle Enterprise Middle School. Many children walk both of these blocks to and from school. The traffic that has occurred at the subject property, 2601, it has not been conducive to not only just residential pedestrians, but school children as well. The outdoor living space with the pool, it's going to continue to be a attractive nuisance. It supports people on a short-term basis that cannot sleep over. So these people are leaving at night and so forth to obviously sleep elsewhere. And that would be way into the wee morning hours. My husband and I have both, observed people leaving intoxicated and getting into their cars and driving off. we don't support this activity in the neighborhood, and I really think that I hope that the residents of the neighborhood can have a priority over these new homeowners who are actually Texas residents. They don't live in Oklahoma, and I'm sorry they weren't here. I think the opportunity has been provided to all of us for this venue, and I think that the fact that they decided not to continue with that just says a lot about the care and regard of the property. Thank you.
Anything from the board?
So I just want to emphasize this. Even though the gentleman was here and he left, I'm not sure if it was an emergency or what caused him to leave. So therefore, because of our guidelines, are we entitled to give him an extension
Yeah,
or move
we-
it over? Okay, so, and I just want to say that so you guys know that I hear what you're saying and I agree 100% with what you've said. And unfortunately, he did leave out, which it can mean two different things. But because of your concerns and your complaints about what's happening there, I'm leaning towards going with you on whatever our next decision may be when we hear from him, for sure. Because if that was me, I would be here, believe me. Yes, ma'am.
Come back, please.
If there is a continuance, how are they monitored to continue renting under the platform, which, you know, does not, the Airbnb platform, without any constraints? They obviously are doing so now, and Action Line has probably received any number of our calls about that short-term no permit. So I'm not sure how that's going to be addressed.
I can add to that. I did speak with the applicant and advised him that I did receive his letter that said he was going to be stopping his Airbnb application, which I thought he meant he was going to withdraw. He said, I don't want to withdraw, I'm just stopping conducting Airbnb until after my meeting. And I advised him that he's not allowed to do Airbnb and that it would be subject to code complaints. So I did turn it in.
Disingenuous and not truthful about
I did turn it in
continuing.
as a watchful eye for this address until our next meeting, because his other application is coming on our next meeting on November 9th, the address that Mr. Hayden asked about on Treadwell. So he did apply, he's not on this docket.
Okay. I am inclined, since you folks took the time and trouble to be here, to go ahead and let all the protesters speak. If you've got something different to add, and my next sign-up is James Burke.
My name is James Burke. I live at 2524 Northwest 58th Place. We're fairly new to the neighborhood. We're grandparents that moved here in August to be with close to our grandchildren. We spent easily 6 to 8 months going all over Oklahoma City, looking for the neighborhood that was our one, that was a family neighborhood. When we found this neighborhood, we knew this was it. This was a place we wanted to be, to feel comfortable, to bring our grandchildren there, to play, to spend overnight. And then within a year, I'm at City Hall. You know, I hope this isn't representative of what all the neighborhoods have to face. I know Tim was here because he signed in right before me, as you have to sign in to come to the building. They were casually talking, they casually got up, walked out. I thought maybe they're going to the restroom because there's about still 20 minutes left. I think that doesn't matter. You have sent us all notice of what to do. You have rules and policy to say, hey, this is when we're hearing this. As adults, you be responsible. If you have an emergency, people have been here since I've been here. It's easily to say, hey, something's come up, I've got to get out of here. I don't think that's fair to us to say, let's let them continue in violation what they've been doing knowingly since July and continue for another month, and then we're going to give them a year for you all to put up with it, and then come back. That just doesn't make sense to me. We've been responsible, we were responsible in our selection. It's a wonderful neighborhood. As you mentioned, we're a half a block from a middle school with children there. This isn't, and to me, as my letter stated to you, it's a slippery slope. Take away special and just call it exemption. Because then there's nothing special about it. If people can be in open violation of this for this long and you still grant them, slap them on the wrist and say, hey, do this for a year, and then we'll come back.
Anything
Any
from
questions?
the board? Okay, I don't have anybody else signed up to speak. You volunteered. Let's go ahead. Come on up.
My name's Will Fothery. My wife and I, Sarah, live at 2532 Northwest 58th Place. I don't have a whole lot to add outside of what my neighbors have already mentioned, but I sent Ms. Lakin a letter, and that outlined, I believe, 8 instances that Sam alluded to in many of those, where these property owners have exhibited an inability to control their guests, from noise complaints, from people trespassing, to throwing bottles at his house when he complains about the noise at 3 a.m. I mean, this is our neighborhood. This is where we live, We take care of our neighborhood. We have pride in our neighborhood. And for someone to come in who doesn't live here, who lives in Dallas, to buy a beautiful home and turn it into, a way to make money, and we don't know who's staying there from night to night, that's frustrating. My wife and I moved here from LA, and we love it here. And to allow outside investors, folks who have no stake at all in this city or this neighborhood, it's like I said, it's a slippery slope. I mean, you could turn the whole neighborhood into Airbnbs. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions for,
Just a little explanation, but so a conversation with your city councilman is where this needs to go. We have a purview. We have to stick within that purview. So that's why we do what we do. And I'll tell us to the public, there is no short-term police out there. I mean, if you don't police the situation yourself, no one will police it, no one will know. And so it is up to you.
But
to
Mr.
do
Noble,
it.
that's another obligation for us.
I
mean,
totally understand it, but
he's shown that he's not capable of controlling his guests. We've seen that. There's been at least 8 incidences since July where he's illegally operating his property. Well,
Yeah.
he can't control these folks.
No.
And they are showing up to party. They're leaving drunk.
yeah.
We get to live with that.
Right.
Because there's a
But
purview that you have
you
to
can't
follow.
pick your neighbor anyway, right? No matter what, you can't pick your neighbor.
Sure.
And so, same circumstance that he has, trying to control these guests is next to impossible also. We can try to do something with the application, but it's about the most we
The
can
purview
do.
means you just approve.
I mean, we'll go through the process, and I'm not saying we're gonna rubber stamp this, and the more information we get, the better informed we are and what we can do. But there is a purview that we have to follow, and so
Right.
that's what we do.
I mean, I think Ms. Lakin's received, I know she's probably sick of getting letters from us. So,
Right,
I mean,
and we
we've
did
provided
get-
as
we-
much information as we can
Right,
about the
and
situation.
every letter that was turned in, we have them in our packet, we all read them, so we do understand the situation. And we feel for you. I wouldn't want it as my neighbor either, and so, but again, it's just a process that we have to do. And by not, I don't know what, calling the Action Center and building a case through that is the only way I know.
I mean, we've been doing that. We've been doing
Right.
that for 4 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and we get the list, so we
Right.
know
I mean,
what's
the
been
owner
called.
clearly doesn't care about following the rules that you guys have put in place. I mean, you give him another year, he's just going to continue to do this. I mean, they left. We're all here. We showed up.
Yeah, and that's why I said, we're going to, or my thoughts also would be to continue this, and I don't want you to have to return, so that's why I wanted everyone to be able to talk, and we would be able to go from there know.
So, sir, I have a real quick question. How long has he been operating the house? for?
Since July.
July? Okay, okay, I needed to know that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, come on up.
You can't pick your neighbors, but you can pick your neighborhood. And you rely on the city to tell you, what neighborhood is this? What is this zoned for? Is this an R1? Yes, it is. And when we made that purchase a year ago, that was the understanding we have. And you say, under your purview or your guidance, do you not have the right to say no? What more do you need to hear? Other than it's standing and operating procedure to give exemptions, then take special off of it. I agree with what Marcus said. It's, you need to support the citizens and the neighbors, the ones that are responsible and follow the rules and the procedures. Show that you support us.
Is there anything new or different that we haven't already heard? Okay, go. I mean, we've got a good outline of the letters, the protests, and the speakers, and I appreciate that, but
My name's Amy Parrish. I'm at 2513 Northwest 59th Street. My question is, what is the rubric for denials? We know what the process is for approvals, but what is the outline for applications that you do deny? Like, in other words, what elements are met on the ones that you don't approve?
it's in the ordinance, and we have a wide latitude of discretion in my mind, the way I read the ordinance.
Okay.
And
so-
they are specifically permitted in R1. So that decision has already been made.
So
that-
I guess I think what I'm asking is, they're applying, and as long as they meet the requirements of smoke detector and filling out the paperwork, is there ever an instance when they're not approved?
Yes.
Is there anything that has happened thus far with this property that would fall into that category of not being approved?
I don't want to make a decision until I've heard
That's fine.
from the applicant.
All right, I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
in what instances they don't get approved.
Well, and we appreciate you guys taking time off from work or personal time to come down here.
It's
That-
from
I
work.
mean, we don't know because we don't live there. So we got to depend on the neighbors to be eyes and ears.
You. It's a very nice neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, I had one more hand back here.
I'm still David Campbell.
Okay.
Board, I'm a 27-year retired deputy sheriff for Oklahoma County. So just as an observation, I knew who these people were when we came in, and I was watching their demeanor. When they started seeing this community come together, and this is my community also, they kept whispering to each other, and they just decided to leave. My observation is that they saw that they had a lot of opposition and didn't want to discuss it with the entire board and us together. If you take that into consideration, please.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing new or additional that hadn't already been said or wasn't included in the letters, then if there's nothing from the board, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, I would,
But before we take a motion, I wanted to get clarification on something. From a legal standpoint, do we have a requirement to grant a continuance on every case?
Do you have a requirement?
Yes.
It's not a requirement, but you could consider what would be in the best interest of your decision, not.
Oh, absolutely, no, and I think, I mean, just listening to the other board members, I think it makes sense. Everybody's of the same mind to continue it. I just wanted to clarify that whether or not we had the authority or the ability to take a decision on something, sans an applicant being present.
You all would decide whether you had the best information available to you, and if you believe that you did, then of course you could take action.
Okay, thank you.
So the action that we can take is to either approve or deny? Is that the two actionable item, ways?
continue.
Or continue
Or
3
continue.
items?
Yes.
Okay. So, I would like, you can do it. So I would like to make a motion that we deny case number 15470 on the grounds that the applicant is not here to speak for himself. However, I do want to say my colleagues may disagree with me, but that's my feelings.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, I think that dies for lack of a second.
Yeah.
Somebody want to try another one?
I'll make a motion, but I want to state that I'm on the same page with Kitty, but I want to make sure that if all of you don't feel like you have all the information you need, I want to give opportunity for that. So for that reason, I'm going to make a motion that we continue it so that everybody gets an opportunity to have access to all the information before making a decision.
Got a motion to continue.
November 2nd?
If that's the next meeting, I'm good with it. Is it?
Is it November 2nd? Ooh, got a doctor's appointment.
Oh, I'm gone.
I am too. I have a doctor's appointment.
Whoa.
December 7th is the next one after that.
December 7th. Yeah.
November 2nd, December 7th, January 4th, January 18th.
Well, you can
I say we put it on the next docket and
see what happens. Okay,
November 2nd.
maybe.
so the motion is to continue to November 2. Okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that, but it's not up on the board yet.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to continue this item to November 2.
I do have a question. If both of you, you're going to be gone and you're going to be gone, Mr. Voorhees?
I can change my doctor's appointment.
Because Mr. Cito won't be here also, so that would be.
I prepaid for the trip. I'm going.
You'll have
And
three.
I may be able to change it because this will be my second time.
Yeah.
You'll have a quorum, looks like.
I'll
Or
change
2,
it.
3.
Okay. We got a quorum for next time, hopefully. Okay. All right. Hang on, we got a motion and a second. All right, cast your votes. All right, this one's continued. If you'll hang around, I'll put you on citizens to be heard. Okay, this one's continued. You're welcome to come back on November 2nd. But you did a good job of making a record and documenting the file. So I leave that to you. If you want to come back November 2nd, you're welcome. Yes.
If there are no shows next time, do you continue it again?
If there are no show again, the board will take action at that time, and it may be another continuance. I'm not predicting, so,
Never show.
We might make a record with this.
okay.
So in the
Okay,
meantime, I
wait a
would
minute.
encourage everybody.
We have voted on
Okay.
this one. If you want to be citizens to be heard, that's fine, but we're done with this. It's continued.
Yes. But may I please, in the meantime, please continue documenting what you're seeing
Yes.
and bring it up so that we'll know that he is still renting the place out.
Yeah. Okay, you're going to have to step, you got to step up to the microphone. They're making a record.
Is that our remedy, to continue to document it through the action line?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Hang on, Sam. Wait a minute. Next one.
Okay, item number 6 was continued till December 7th, so we're at the end of our docket.
Okay, I don't have any additional items, communication, there are no committees, board members have anything to say? Rita? Okay, now citizens to be heard.
Sam Heinen, 2605 Northwest 58th Place. If at the end, if this ends up, I may not come back November 2nd. I've said everything I got to say. But if at the end of this, they get approved, I really would appreciate it if the 3-night minimum could be tested in this situation, if that's a possibility. We have really seen a difference in the quality of guests who stay at the house between 1- and 2-night guests versus 3- or 4-night guests. The 1- and 2-night guests are just people who rent it for the weekend, have a pool party, and then leave, Sunday morning. So I would, if it's going to get approved in the end, I really would like the 3-night minimum to be tested in this situation. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Okay. Any other citizens to be heard? I don't have any other business. Anybody got anything? I think we're adjourned.